Welcome, guys. Welcome. Welcome, Basil Marevesa. How are you? Basil, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Thank you for accommodating me.
Thank you for joining our fourth episode. We're just having issues with our network, but in a few minutes we'll be starting the meeting.
Okay.
Is everything on your side?
It's okay.
Good. Thank you. Thank you.
Hi, Tish.
Hi, Daddy. How are you?
I'm very well. I think we'll be starting in the next 3 minutes.
Okay.
Is
Thank
that
you.
okay? Yeah. We're resolving the network issues.
Okay.
Mr. Reve, how have you been?
I'm good. How about yourself?
I've been well. And how is the workplace?
Workplace is fine. I must say workplaces because I'm in the consultants, so I'm moving around.
Oh, I see. I see.
Yeah, so
Okay.
the workplaces are varying. At the moment, I'm in Wolf's Bay, Namibia.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
How is Namibia?
Namibia, in Wolf's Bay, we are a bit under heat wave. The temperatures are hitting 40 degrees Celsius at the moment from last week. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
I presume you're taking lots of fluids.
Very much. But some 3 days ago, I was in Windhoek. The weather there is better.
Oh, okay. That's better. Mr. Munyaradzi. Mr. Munyaradzi, how are you? Looks like he's not there. Mr. Bezel? Mr. Bezel Marevesa, can you hear me? Okay, looks like he's Mr. Bezel? Okay, so looks like we have to start now, and welcome everyone to our fourth ESH webinar series. And in today's series, we'll be talking about the life of the SHE practitioner or SHE personnel. And as our toolbox talk, would like to discuss on how best we can deliver a highly impactful toolbox talk. And then for our spotlight, we'll be looking at the SHE policy, just trying to understand, like, are we really living the contents of the policy, or is just there for display or for auditors? So over to you, Mr. Trich, for our toolbox talk.
Okay, thank you, Daddy, for that one. Let me see if I can share the presentation for the toolbox. Okay, just a few minutes so that I can share. Okay. Right. So, in our toolbox talk today, we are going to be discussing on how to make a toolbox talk effective or impactful in our workplace. So, what is the purpose of a toolbox talk? A toolbox talk is there to ensure that everyone begins their day with a right attitude towards safety. Or it is also there to ensure that the employees understand their responsibility with the task at hand and how to achieve it in a safe way. It is also to ensure that safety culture is embraced at departmental level. And in toolbox talk, that's where everyone is expected, or That's where we demonstrate what is expected when we are performing our tasks, how we manage hazards, and how we work safely. And it is also that facilitates safety discussions on job sites. So to define it, a toolbox talk is an informal safety meeting that is mainly shorter than our safety meetings, and it is usually scheduled at the beginning of a shift or in the morning, and are usually conducted at the job site, and it runs on regular basis. And in these discussions, that's where we cover safety issues or topics to do with safety. And the topics that we discuss are on in our safety meetings or in our toolbox talk may include electrical safety. You can also discuss about hazard communication. You can discuss about office safety or emergency response. So how do we make it effective? Uh, Firstly, it should be conducted at the job site. In some occasions, usually people conduct this at a common place of meeting, maybe in a tea room. But for it to be effective, it's better to go where you perform your tasks, then you conduct the safety meet, the toolbox talks there. And also, it should be presented in the presence of an authority, so that these discussions will not bypass safety concerns where people start discussing about their family issues or other aspects, defeating the whole purpose of the discussion. And also, if you're tasked to present, be it in your section or in your department, it's better to seek advice from a SHE practitioner or SHE officer, so that you get more info on what you would want to present. And so that it's more effective, it's better to keep it very short and simple, so that you don't overload your audience with the information that they will not put into practical. So if you make it short, people will grasp whatever you present. And whenever possible, it's better to use practical demonstration, so that people have a visual of what you will be uh, presenting to them. That is, if it's about manual handling, it's better to demonstrate the techniques that are recommended, rather than stating them that you should use your back or that you should use your feet when lifting without demonstrating it. And also deliver it in the common language. If there is a jargon that is used in your engineering department, it's better to reference that and use that, so that your audience will understand whatever you are talking about. And another way, you can reference a story or a case study or something that has happened, so that people will get another visual of how a certain hazard can affect them and how it can be managed. And last but not least, it's better to make it interactive, so that you know if you and your audience are on the same page. And what comes out of it, it increases the awareness in your colleagues. It also keeps everyone alert of any new rules, any changes in equipment, or any preventive practices that may be introduced. It is also another way of preventing or reducing accidents in the workplace. And also it refreshes the knowledge of employees towards safety issues, and it promotes communication through those interactive discussions. So I guess everyone in different industries have been to a toolbox talk, and they have noticed a few things that they feel can be changed to make it effective. So I'm giving this opportunity to the audience to share their experience and how they think a toolbox talk can be made highly effective at the workplace. Thank you. I'm giving this
Thank you
opportunity
very
to the
much.
floor.
Thank you very much, Teach, for that insightful presentation. I would
Okay.
like to believe that the SHE practitioner or SHE personnel is not always there within every department to actually deliver an interactive and effective toolbox talk. So I would like to believe it will both benefit for us as SHE personnel to actually train the departmental personnel within our organizations so that they are abreast on how best they can deliver an effective toolbox talk. It looks like Ms. Tonde has just joined us and she's the one who is facilitating this whole discussion. So Ms. Tonde, I give you the floor. Thank you. That will be my contribution.
Thank you, Daddy.
Okay.
Thank you for
Thank
that
you
one.
so much, Daddy. Morning, everyone. Hi, Revai. Hi, Ranga. Hi, Nyarati. Thank you guys for joining us. Thank you, Teach, for that toolbox talk. I hope everyone has already had their toolbox talk today. So now we are going to move on to our spotlight by Ms. Daddy. Over to you, Daddy.
Oh, thank you very much, Ms. Tonde. I thought maybe the floor was going to be given a chance to talk about the toolbox. Anyhow, like you're the one who is facilitating, let me dive straight into the spotlight. So for our spotlight today, we're going to talk about the SHE policy. So we all understand that every organization that has implemented and is maintaining systems usually have a policy in place and is nicely displayed in frames, and we present this to our auditors. Now, are we even leaving the contents of that policy? Sorry guys, I'm not presenting. This is an open discussion, an open table discussion. Everyone is free to participate and welcome. So are we really leaving the contents of the policy in our organizations?
Okay, thank you, Daddy, for that one. In my experience, I've seen that we are not leaving the contents of the policy. For instance, a new employee, they will be during induction, they will be told about the policy. That's only when they will know that there is a policy. But if you go on to them, maybe 2, 3, or 3 months later, and ask them about the policy, they will not even know about it. So in my opinion, I don't think people are leaving the policy. It's now just a statement within the organization. Okay.
Oh, okay, wonderful. You have just raised one point I really loved about the communication of the policy through induction. I do understand that we have different forms of communication that we use as SHE personnel. So in this scenario, how best do we deliver the message about the policy every now and again, such that everyone is abreast on the standards that they have to follow within the organization?
Okay, thank you.
Good morning.
Morning.
Morning, Ranga.
Yes, thank you for the opportunity. My contribution in terms of delivering the policy to employees, I believe we can take advantage of technology and use it to push the agenda forward. If you can relate with me, before March 2020, not much business was being done using WhatsApp groups in organizations. But you realize that we often see WhatsApp groups in which only admins can post something. So it would be relevant to see a SHE officer being an admin in such groups where you can, over time, upload or send snippets, just like safety tip of the day. It keeps the mind excited. You research, you 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 make it a habit such that people look forward to hearing from you every day. There's also the chance of using work emails to distribute newsletters, spotlights, anything that may be relevant to the organization, such that people can read during their spare times, and also to facilitate interactions with, of course, in cognizance of what the pandemic will allow us to do. So that's my contribution. We can use technology to make sure that the policy gets to people, because it is unfortunate when a person joins an organization, they sign, they are made to sign that they have read and understood the documents, but it is only put on your table and you browse through it, then you are told, have you understood? You want the job, you want the money, you just sign. So the mammoth task is about delivering it to the people slowly and making it a culture. Thank you for that.
Absolutely true. Absolutely true. For real, people, when they are not communicated, or when they are not communicated to and they do not know what is expected from them, they'll just leave what they think is the norm. And usually that brings about repercussions associated with that. And I do understand we also have pictograms that we use, the graphics that can also somehow deliver the same message that would want to entail to the whole organization. So how then do we ensure cooperation and participation within the organization with in cognizance to the SHE policy? In as much as we have communicated, how then do we ensure participation of the each and every individual within the organization?
Okay.
Looks like. Mm-hmm.
I'll take on that one. What I think can be done, policies are the statements in the policies. In my opinion, there are goals that the company intends to achieve towards environmental management and safety. So to make sure that people live onto those goals, I think it's best if they are translated into operational rules and guidelines, so that if you find out that employees, if they know that these are just goals, they might not know how to achieve them. But if you give them rules and guidelines that you should do this way and that way, I think it's another way of making people live the gospel of the policy. Thank you.
For real. For real. Hello?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, it looks like somebody wanted to say something.
Okay.
Oh, all right. Thank you very much, Teach, for bringing that up. It's actually one of the main challenges that we face in developing the policy, because in most cases, we just have somebody to draft the policy, and even ourselves, we just say, okay, it's approved. And then we look for frames and put it on the walls. But then there are the contents of the policy, which are for paramount importance, like what you have highlighted, Mr. Teach. The management personnel has to come up with the statement of intent, and of course, the organization and the arrangement section. But then how often do we need to review these policies? And what are some of the reasons that might cause us to review the policy? Looks like Ms. Tonde is eager to say something.
Okay, sorry, before you go on, there's Bezel.
Oh, all right. Okay, over to you, Mr. Bezel, you can contribute.
Yes, thank you. Contribution is that for the effectiveness of these policies, it also need for active participation from senior management to also show the commitment of the organization to fully implement what they've signed on those policy statements that we see that are nicely framed. Without that, it tends to become resisted by the general workforce. It tends to become like a management thing that is being forced down on employees. Yet we need the full participation, that is commitment in terms of putting resources for all programs that are designed, and also resources in terms of money and resources in terms of time and in manpower. I think if we have that complete participation from management, it helps to drive the policies, and it tends to become a culture. amongst the workplace people to know that this is how it is done, and the example is straight from the top. Thank you.
Absolutely right. Absolutely right. Thank you very much for that contribution, Mr. Bezel. Obviously, we always say we follow the leader, is it? So if the management is at the front and they are availing resources for us to implement the vision that they have made us to see, obviously everyone is going to follow suit. And Ms. Chonde, you were about to say something?
Yes, thank you very much, Daddy. My contribution is on the contribution that was made by Ranga. I would like to add something onto that. You mentioned that employees are just shown the policy when they join the organization. I think to add on to that, we might have induction, which has many points on the policy, so that when someone joins the organization, they don't just sign on to something that they do not know about. They get an in-depth knowledge of what the policy is about. So as part of our induction, we should include more elaborate policy discussion. And also to add on to the point that management is supposed to be the one demonstrating what they have signed on. When we look at the policy is something that is a statement of intent. It's the management that is pledging to say that we will do this in regards with safety and health. So I think that when other employees see management practicing what they have pledged to, it's a motivation for the employees to actually practice what is on the policy as well. So that's my contribution.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I couldn't have said it better myself. For sure, there is the commitment of the management, and at the same time, there is also need for involvement of the employees at large, so that we actually see within each and every policy that is framed and displayed, there is the signature of the top management and also the worker representative. So for the whole organization to own the policy as the culture of the organization, obviously there is need for involvement and participation and consultation of everyone. So the other reason that I would highlight on with regards to the policy review, in as much as we might have the policy in place, there is need for it to be continuously reviewed. And we look at the changes within the workplace, even the pre-task risk assessments themselves. When people go for a break, when they come back, we always encourage them to review the task again, even the workplace, such that they ensure it is safe. The workplace conditions are also changing. We look at the COVID times, the instruments that are being issued. Those are some of the reasons why a policy can be changed. Anything that can also drive the change of a policy within an organization.
Okay, to add on to your point, I think also review is another way of seeing why people are not leaving the statement, why people are not doing what they are supposed to do as the policy says. That's it.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Tich. Any other reasons for the review of the policy? Yes, Ms. Tonde?
Okay, thank you, Daddy. I think when the scope of the organization changes, there is need to review the policy. And also when there is a change in the management structure, there is also need to review the policy, because you can't have the policy displayed with the signature Team Mary when the new CEO of the company is Team Daddy Maba. It doesn't make any sense. So there is need to review the policy then. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely right. Tim, we can also use the chat box. If you have unsteady network, you can also use the chat box to actually give your contribution. It's open to everyone. So I think for the spotlight, this is where I see there's Mr. Ranga wants to say something.
Yes, maybe a small contribution to why we may need to review policies. I believe the recurrence of accidents and it's usually the same type of accident. It's something that we need to that can encourage us to go back to the drawing board and see where we may have gone wrong in terms of drafting the policy. If you look at the slide, there is a consultation. There's a point on consultation. It is also important to consult when reviewing the policies, such that this is an all for it, like it's for everyone. The program becomes for everyone, and people take it as their own. So it's painful to see the same type of accident recurring. It's actually a reason why we can decide to review. Thank you.
Absolutely right, because when we have a recurrence, it means we are missing something, and we need actually to review what exactly that we are missing, and we put in controls and measures to curb that. That was an excellent contribution. Now, the time for I have been allocated for this spotlight is over. I'll now hand it over to our facilitator, Ms. Tonde. You can take the floor.
Okay, thank you so much, Daddy, for that spotlight, and thank you to everyone who managed to contribute. It was an exciting conversation on the policy. We talked about top management commitments, employee involvement, communication, and all that, reviewing the policy. So yeah, now we move on to the main topic of the day, which is day in the life of a SHE officer. So whilst we are sorting out some technical issues here, I'll ask any one of you to tell me what their day is like as a SHE officer, just briefly. Anyone who wants. Ms. Danny, you can start. I see your mic is on.
All right. Thank you very much, Ms. Trende, for the opportunity. I would use my experience before and then, of course, the current experience that I have. Having the legal obligation of ensuring that the workplace is safe, and my duty within the organization as the SHE officer or SHE personnel is to play the role of the management and to ensure that the workplace is safe. So the first thing that I would do when getting into the plant is to make sure that the plant is safe. That is conducting the morning inspection and prepare for the production meeting. If I'm supposed to be attending the production meeting, I should be knowing every current affair that has taking place within the organization, and of course, advise different departmental personnel on the lagging issues, SHE issues that they would need to address. And if I've been invited to deliver a toolbox talk, I would have to go to the different departments that I've been invited to and obviously deliver an impactful toolbox talk like Mr. Teach was saying. And then obviously move around within the organization and see if people have done what they're supposed to be doing in terms of filling out the pre-test risk assessment, the lockout, tag out, and they are using the appropriate PPE and they are working safely. I would say in a nutshell, for me, that would be my day. And of course, there might be other ad hoc activities that might arise, but basically for me, that would be a day. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Daddy. Is there anyone else who would like to make any contribution regarding to what their day life is like? Okay, I see Reva, your hand is up. You can go ahead.
Okay, thank you, Cherit. Maybe just to take you a bit in terms of my experience as a SHE practitioner when I was in the operations. I would say at one of the organizations that I worked in before, there were 3 questions that a SHEC practitioner together with the line supervisor or line manager would be asked after any incident or accident. The first question was, were you aware that people were not following this procedure if the incident was non-adherence to a certain procedure? So that was the first question. So a SHEC practitioner or a SHEC officer would be asking that question. The second question probably would say, no, I was not aware. The second question was, were you supposed to be aware? Then you would ask yourself to say, okay, as a SHEC practitioner responsible for this area, then you say, yes. The third question, which was the last one, was say, so why were you not aware? So those three questions would force one to make sure that is or she is hands-on, like the previous contributor said. You start your day by attending the SHEC talks or toolbox talks. Some say SHEC security, safety, health, environment, and quality, depending on the system. After that, you move around checking pre-task risk assessment for the employees. You would also need to check or to look out for high-risk jobs. Suppose could be some high-risk jobs that would be taking place in your work area. So at one organization that I worked, you would then raise a high-risk job in a high-risk job notification, like I think is the should be teach who mentioned the issue of embracing the social media, would then use our WhatsApp groups to notify that we have got this high-risk job. This would enable, if you move to another area, someone will also keep an eye on that particular high-risk job, thereby ensuring that there is adherence to all safety, health, environment, and quality requirements. So by so doing, it will not be your sole responsibility as a SHEC practitioner. Why? Because even in the notification would also indicate the immediate supervisor of that particular task. So that one, it lessens the burden on the SHEC practitioner, but it also gives the responsibility to the line supervisor or manager to make sure that he or she keeps a close eye on that particular task. I think for now, that would be my contribution. We'll continue having this discussion as we go. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Revai. Both of you, Revai and Study, you raised questions on task management. You say you have a lot of things to do in the plant. Walk around the plant, check the pre-task risk assessments and all that. So now I have a question for you guys, everyone who's here. As a SHE practitioner, with all the tasks that you have, Revai mentioned that it's a hands-on job. How then do you manage your time?
Thank
I
you.
would take that. Okay, you can go ahead, Mr. Teach.
Okay, I would like to answer the question of how you would manage your tasks as a SHE practitioner. So in my experience, you would find out that whenever there are issues with the organization or with the company, the first department that will be influenced is the SHE department. So you would have a few personnel to assign tasks to. So the best way we approach this issue was to decentralize the power of SHE officers to departments. That's when we had to choose SHEC representatives or SHE reps at every department, at every section. So that when it comes to the issue of incidents, like what Mr. Levi was saying, you asked, were you aware that the procedures were not followed? That's when you, as a SHE officer, you then approach your SHE representatives and ask them the same question. So that is how we were managing our tasks as a SHE practitioners, because you wouldn't be everywhere at any time as a SHE officer. You are a human being, so it's impossible for you to be everywhere. But to manage it, it is the best to decentralize the power. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Teach. I can see that your hand is up. You can go ahead with your contribution.
All right, thank you very much. My contribution would be, you have to plan, and I repeat again, plan, plan, plan. We usually given this company stationery, that is the branded notebooks or diaries, and we have these pens. We have to use them. They always say failing to plan is planning to fail. So as a SHE practitioner, you have to plan your day. What is it that you're going to do in the morning? In the afternoon, if you have to set aside time for ad hoc activities, how are you going to absorb those within your daily program? That way, you know exactly what you're supposed to be following and you won't go wrong. It has helped me a lot. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Daddy, for that contribution. Your contribution just reminded me of something. When it comes to planning, that's where the issue of responsibility, assigning responsibility comes in as well. So I've noticed that oftentimes when we're having toolbox talk or any other SHE meetings with the SHE personnel present, the employees tend to talk about other issues other than safety issues, like, for example, the issue of salaries. That's an HR issue, the issue of leave days. How then, as a SHE practitioner, do you ensure that people stick to the agenda of the meeting, and how do you deal with such issues so that you don't end up doing a job that is not yours?
Okay, before we had any takers on that question, we had Rely hand up before. I guess he wanted to contribute on something.
Yeah, thank you so much. Maybe great minds think alike. Charity has just touched on it, the issue of assigning roles and responsibilities, to say, let's have legal appointments to the teams so that they also take ownership in terms of ensuring that employees under their supervision are working safely. So that was going to be my contribution in terms of make sure that time allocation and time management is effective. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Rela. I teach you had a contribution. You can go ahead.
Okay. You're talking about people passing on complaints about issues that are beyond your control. I think the best way to deal with that is for what in my experience, we find out whenever you go on to the department during the toolbox talk to get their complaints or to hear what they are facing that's when you'll be getting all those complaints about. So we then decided that it's best for us to not attend most of those toolbox talk, but get the records of what was presented and what was the consent and what was the complaints that they will be passing on to their colleagues, so that you will not get more complaints that are beyond our control. That's my contribution.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Teach. I can see that your hand is up. You can go ahead with your contribution.
Yes, my contribution will be, you obviously, I always want to stress this thing about planning. When you have your agenda for the meeting, you just follow the agenda and you stick to it. So it doesn't bring in more. I know there are people who have this tendency of putting in their own agenda within the meeting, you always have to constantly remind them that I'm here to address this issue. I think the best channel of communication, if you want to address this issue, will be this, and you follow the company protocol. I think that would be the best way to handle it, because either case, in each and every meeting that you are going to attend, people will link safety issues with salaries. They'll tell you we are stressed up, and that means we're not going to focus on our jobs. You know, that in it tells you that there's something that is lacking. You just tell them directly, you guys, you know what? This is the company policy. I'm here to do this. This is the agenda that I'm going to stick to. I think the best protocol that you can follow when wanting to address this issue is like this. That will be my contribution. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Daddy. Rewai, I see your hand is up. You can go ahead.
Okay, thank you very much, the Cherit. Yeah, I've encountered more questions to do with remuneration during toolbox talk, some of these gatherings at workplaces. Yeah, you know, the issue of remuneration, sometimes you cannot totally separate it from workplace hazards or risks. Why am I saying this? A disgruntled employee may lead to psychosocial hazards. Remember, there's issue of psychosocial hazards at workplace, issue of workload, remuneration, salary delays, or they will also lead to accident. Why? Because they bring along issue of people having their minds away from the task at hand, or spending most of their time at workplace discussing the issue of salaries, among other issues. My contribution to that, or my responses were to say, okay, it's fine, guys, I've heard you, but there is always a thin line between worker representatives and she representative or a sheikh practitioner. What you can, or what I used to do is I would take note, say, okay, it's fine, I've heard you. However, this is not under sheikh department, it's an HR thing, but I do understand your concerns. And sometimes I would even bring up the issue or advise, even if there are worker representatives among the employees that will be attending that meeting, to take it up with HR, so that they would not say, if we bring our issues, you quickly rub us off, but we advise them to take the right channel. But ultimately, or as a sheikh practitioner, would back in our mind, you would really understand to say we cannot totally dissociate ourselves from this, because there's the issue of a psychosocial hazard, and there's a draft ISO standard that is coming, that is currently underway in terms of psychosocial hazards, and the issue of remuneration, among other employee welfare, workloads, all those things there on that. I'm sure even Charity, you can concur with me. I'm sure we have met the draft ISO standard before together. So yeah, let's try to be proactive, probably even to ask ourselves as practitioners, even before we go to such gatherings, to have enough ammunition to not to be, but at the same time taking into cognizance the issue of psychosocial hazard emanating from issues of remuneration. That would be my contribution. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Rewai, for that contribution. It's very true. We have the ISO standard coming up on psychosocial hazards. So like Mr. Rewai said, in as much as we would not want to be involved as such in HR issues, but in a way you are involved. So you have to find a way to tackle, a nice way to tackle that, so that work goes on. Daddy mentioned something about meetings. I'm not sure if it's Daddy or Teach. So taking up from there, from that point of meetings, she meetings, you mentioned something about she minutes being written and all that. Every meeting has minutes, right? So at some of the she meetings that I've attended, I've noticed that the same issues tend to be brought up over and over again over different meetings. How best can you ensure that these meetings are actioned on so that we don't have recurrence of the same issues being discussed at the meetings?
Thank
That's
you.
a very
Go ahead.
critical. Okay, that's a very critical area, because it's one thing discussing, talking is good to talk, but then we have to walk the talk. And you as the SHE practitioner in the organization, you are the driver of everything that you have spoken about. It's more like after having an audit, there are some NCs that are raised. It's your duty as the SHE practitioner to make sure that when there's a follow-up audit, everything is in order. So obviously, when we're writing minutes, from my own experience, it's like we have the action item, who is responsible, and we assign the due date. So if there's one thing I was really trained on during this whole course is to do follow-ups. Yeah, that's one thing that has really helped me in most instances, especially with regards to accidents, follow-up, the meeting issues, follow-up, and even the audit action plans, follow-up. You just need to follow up, and it usually brings about results because people would know that you mean business. That would be my contribution.
Okay, thank you. Reva, I see your hand is up. You can go ahead.
Thank you so much. It's that contribution. Sorry?
Yes, it's
Okay,
that
it's fine. No,
yes,
thank you, Daddy. Yeah, in addition to what Daddy has just said, you know what? When it comes to shake issues, it's like sweeping water up the hill. You don't need to rest. Push up until you get to the crest. So what she's saying in terms of follow-ups, it's really a key character of a SHE practitioner. In addition to that, from my experience, how to develop a dashboard. A dashboard would have all action plans. She mentioned issue of audits, meeting action plans, SHE-reps meeting action plans, management review or steering committee, all those kind of things. The dashboard, just like when you are driving, you always look out for the dashboard. If the temperature is going up, it communicates something. So this dashboard now, you'll be sending it regularly to the respective stakeholders or personnel. This will act as a reminder. Again, at some organization that I've worked before, there was a system to say, if an action plan is allocated to a certain level or a responsible person, if the time lapses, automatically it gets up to the person who is higher than that person. To say this person, it has come out that has failed, so automatically the responsibility goes up to say after a month. If the action plan was supposed to be closed within 2 weeks or a month, it automatically gets up to the next person up until it gets to the highest office. By so doing, no one would want to be asked to say, why have you failed? It would keep each and every person on his or her toes when it comes to action plans closure. Because normally when you are making follow-ups, by them closing, they would think that they will be doing a favor to that SHE practitioner. But if it's a system that is known, that is within the organization, and if one is asked to say, why did you fail? Why did you not come to me and say you wanted this resource? So if the person is asked for the first time, he or she wouldn't want to be asked the second time. By so doing, it also lessens the burden on the SHE practitioner. Everyone come to the party. That will be my contribution when it comes to closure of issues. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Riwai. That was a mouthful, and I've picked a lot of issues from what you just said. You mentioned something to do with the dashboard, and you mentioned something to do with giving out tasks to people. So when it comes to that, I also have a question to raise on that one, like assigning tasks. You assign tasks to different departments, right? You mentioned something to do with resources as well. So yeah, I would like to raise a question on that one. How best can you ensure that your interaction with other departments is in sync and you won't have any issues? For example, if you look at organizations right now, we've had a series of lockdowns and some production might have been slowed down and all that. So you might find that there are cases whereby production and safety may have some sort of battle, production being prioritized. How then do you ensure that this does not happen? Production is not prioritized over safety, and that you have good interaction with other departments.
Okay, thank you, Cherit. In terms of interaction, what I've also maybe allow me to give maybe my experience as well when it comes to interacting with the departments. The problem that I've seen is if you pick or if you discuss issues to do with safety, health, environment, and quality, you need to involve the line. Whatever deviations, non-conformities that you would have picked, you need to discuss with the rightful person or personnel in terms of course of action, that is the action plan, even the deadline. If you impose, that will be the first point where you are not going to meet your objective. If you impose to say, do this by this date, you are bound not to get the result. Discuss. They can be of the opinion of giving a futuristic deadline, but as a SHEC practitioner, you then highlight the risk or the risks associated with that time. Up until you come to an agreement to say, okay, let's do this by this. And normal, more often than not, they would see you as part of the problem solving. Once they see you as a policeman, that's when you having those fights to say you are there to hinder our production. But if you highlight to the person, my friend, there is a risk of accidental energy discharge there. So we need a lockout takeout system in this. If we do not have this system in place, you and I will be in trouble if there is any mishap. If you include yourself to that consequence, that person automatically sees you as someone who is on his or her side. But if you say, you'll be in trouble if this happens, that's where the fight begins. So the preaching is safe production, not safe then production, but it's safe production. It's like Revai Makanda. That's the full name. So if you be on the same side with them, you agree on the course of action and the deadlines, you are bound to have your results. And this has worked for me to an extent that they can even invite you if there is any deviation or non-conformity, but they are getting pressure or a push from their line to from a higher level. They would say, my friend, come, this is the issue, but I would want you to pick as a sort of an inspection, then raise it, because our bosses want us to do this, but this is who is there to assist them on the same side. But once they see you as a policeman, then you always have some problems with the department. But if you include yourself as part and parcel of the problem and part and parcel of the solution, they'll see you differently, and you are bound to have a smooth running operational workplace. I'm not so sure if I've asked you, Charity, before I.
Yes, thank you so much, Mr. Rivai. Like you said, safe production. You need to employ really tactful conflict resolution strategies. Thank you so much. Daddy, I see your hand is up. You have something to add on?
I'm in total agreement with Mr. Revai. Obviously, it's safe production, not safety, then production, or production, then safety. Obviously, one thing that would entice anyone easily is you talk about the numbers. In as much as you're talking about numbers of production, we're also talking about numbers of incidents. So we're saying, guys, here are the facts, and the way you deliver the facts is another issue. There's a way of being a policeman, like what Mr. Levi was saying, and you become an enemy to everyone, and you will not achieve the goals. But then if you involve them and you show them exactly where the numbers are linking and where the consequences can mix up, that means everyone would be at the same page, and obviously it will make your work easier. And you have to be somebody who is very social, and you get to interact with everyone at every level. That way it's easier for you to manage safety issues as a SHIP practitioner. That would be my contribution, Charity.
Okay, thank you very much for that, Daddy. You guys, you just reminded me of when I worked for this Chinese organization sometime. So communication was a bit of a challenge because of language barriers. So I remember the only word they would understand was babysitter. So whenever they would see me, they'll be like, babysitter, babysitter, babysitter. So yeah, as a SHIP practitioner, you are the babysitter, preaching safe production and all that. Moving on to the other issue, I picked from what you guys said. Someone mentioned something to do with management. So my question would be, we all know that management develops the policies as their statement of intent, pledging to what they would do. But it's not always that you interact with management that is proactive. We all know that we have the visible field leadership. We have them being part of audits, being part of SHE meetings, but there is something that they need to do to ensure that they are living to what they said, walking the safety track. So how do you ensure that you have management buy-in and they are proactive? Daddy, I see your hand is up.
My hand was not even up. Charity. It's all right. It's all right. My line of thinking, and even from the experience that I have so far, is the numbers, they speak for themselves. In as much as you are attending the production meetings and these quarterly SHE meetings with management, you have to actually convince them in whatever way possible to ensure that they are in sync with the vision that they have set for the organization with regards to safety. And when you just speak the numbers, the facts, they talk for themselves. So I think it would be of importance that you highlight everything to them in a way that they understand better, because it's their duty as the management. They know it's their priority, and it's legalized that they should ensure the safety of the organization. So just constantly reminding them that it's their duty is something that you can do as the SHIP practitioner. That would be my contribution.
Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Rivai, I see your hand is up, but I think we'll go with Basil first, then Rivai afterwards.
Okay, thank you,
Basil.
Thank you, Charity. Yes, from my little experience in the field of check, what I have realized is that if you want to have SHEC programs effectively implemented, the SHEC structure should have somebody who is at senior management level leading that department or the division, such that they are able to sell or to convince fellow management members to buy into the safety programs that are in place. Because if it is at low level management or at low level at all, it is difficult to have decisions stamped to be agreed on. As you would find that most guys, especially in senior management, they still don't have the safety programs as a program fit for organizations. They are programs that are meant to disturb. They think they are programmed for somebody else and not for all of them. So I think it is important to have in SHEC committees, probably the chairperson to be at director level or deputy director level or some high position that such that they would be able to influence even the chief executive and who might also influence the board to make quick decisions on issues concerning safety, health, and environment for the organization. That would be my contribution.
Thank you very much. Reva, you can go ahead.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Bezo. I was also going to touch a bit on that. You know, it depends with the industry that you'll be operating in. I'll give an example. In mining industry, the SI 109 of 1990, there's a legal appointment by the mines inspector of the mine manager. So you'll find in terms of management, and normally mine manager will be part of the executive committee. Mine manager then appoints SHEC manager or SHEC superintendent as the right-hand man when it comes to advising safety, health, environment, and quality, but still being held accountable for those safety, health, environment, and quality issues at that mine. What it therefore means is you are better positioned as SHEC practitioners at a mine to push for better SHEC culture. Why? Because even if the mine manager wants otherwise, he or she knows he will be held accountable at the end of the day. So that will make life easier in terms of management involvement. I want to give these two adage. The carrot and stick approach. There is no way we are going to use the carrot and succeed. The carrot and stick approach will be used where persuasive means or punitive means are employed at a balance. You need to strike a balance. I know it's certain mines that I've worked before. I've worked for a few mines before. There is this fining system, the issue of fines. The issue of fines do not apply to lower level employees only, but to HODs and above. And by fining HODs, this will ensure that SHEC in various departments is taken seriously, because no one would want the bread for his or her family being taken out. So this too, I've seen it working. We need to strike a balance there. And there's this issue to say when fish is rotting, it starts from the head. Therefore means the head of departments, the leaders, the management need to be vigilant when it comes to safety, health, environment, enforcement. Check practitioners, I know historically, people would say our job or our roles, they are summarized as 3 A's. But during my experience, I also added an E to that. 3 A's meaning to say assist, audit, advise. But I also added an E that is to ensure. Let's ensure that is done. Advising, just auditing, it will not be enough, but let's ensure. If it's the manager is responsible for a closure of a certain action plan, as a check practitioner, let's ensure that is done timeously. That's my contribution. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that, Mr. Rivai. Interesting contribution. So now let's talk about the visible thought leadership. How can you ensure that there is some value derived from visible felt leadership exercises? Because I've noticed that before employees are notified. Is that how it's supposed to be done? Do we derive any value from doing that?
Interesting. From the experience I've had, the schedule for the visible thought leadership tours is not shared with other employees, but rather even with the management personnel per se. It's just for the SHE practitioner to know. And during the production meeting, the SHE practitioner or the SHE manager just alert the chair that we're going to have a visible thought leadership tour within a specific department. And obviously, when you go there, that's when you get to understand what exactly that is happening on the ground, because people are just living the normalcy that they are used to. So you derive better value from that, other than telling them that management will be here tomorrow, so you guys, you should be at par with everything. That doesn't even solve anything, because every gray area will be covered and there will be nothing for the management to see. And when you present your issue with regards to a specific department, they would say, you know what, when we went there, there wasn't any issue. So it's also a trick for the SHE manager or the SHE personnel to actually take into cognizance when planning this visible thought leadership. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Daddy, for that contribution. Is there anyone else who would like to contribute? I see your hand is up. You can go ahead.
Okay, thank you so much. Yeah, the issue of visible thought leadership depends with the organizational culture. I've met different organizational cultures before. The main problem is how do organization handle the findings or the report from a visible field leadership perspective. If they use it as for punitive measures, people are bound to be defensive, are bound to make sure that let's warn each other amongst the head of departments, the head of section, to say I'll be in trouble if this HOD goes, suppose the plant manager goes to mining and does the visible field leadership, when it, and the mining manager is taken to task for some issues that were picked, then when it comes to the mine manager's time to do a VFL, that person is bound to go to the plant to have a retaliation mission. Why? Because I was taken to task because of your report that you wrote last time. The visible field leadership It mustn't be like an audit or an inspection. I agree with should be Daddy who said it should not be like a planned thing to say the department is then prepares for a visible felt leadership. We need to see real things and understand why. Be friendly to the employees there. Give them opportunity to explain. Give reasons. Who get more value. We can improve our workplace, getting more information from the employees. But I've seen some visible felt leadership, even those ones who will be conducting it, people will be running all over, using all sorts of words. It defeats the whole purpose of a VFL. So my contribution is on the organizational culture. Visible felt leadership shouldn't be used as a punitive tool, not to raise any charges, hearings from those visible felt leadership processes. That's my contribution to that. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for that very valid contribution there. I also think that the issue with visible field leadership goes back to what we discussed earlier on about management buy-in. When you have management that totally understands the safety issues that you're running with, they'll totally understand the purpose of the visible field leadership. And this will lead to avoiding scenarios whereby managers will be shouting at employees like Rivai said, visible field leadership is not an audit, it's not supposed to be like an inspection, and also it's not meant for management to impose punitive measures on the employees. So yeah, that's it for visible field leadership. Any other contribution from the floor? Okay, if there is no one else, then we move on to the other issue, the issue to do with employees themselves. Okay, so there are employees that will be at organizations for like a long time. And you probably just go there, like for me, for instance, I go there as a SHE officer and there'll be these old men, and they'll start telling you, you can't tell us how to do things. We've been doing this before you were even born. So yeah, how do we build safety champions from individuals who are resistant to safety issues?
Wow, that's a tough one. I can attest, but being a social person like myself, it's been easier for me to penetrate, I would like to say, because like I highlighted earlier on from the previous conversation, the way you deliver your message does everything for you. When you just go to the plant and you see Sekuru, you're like, you know, that kind of a thing. Because he's older than you, and going back to our Ubuntu, we are Africans. That's not how you address a person who is older than you, in as much as you have a higher grade than he's older than you. And in as much as you have you have something that's there to build him, you have to know how to package your message. Better to somehow go every now and again and just see the people working, interacting with them in a very good way. You're not there to give them any ideas or what, you're just seeing what they are doing and interacting with them at their very same at the very same level that they are as well. And that has really helped me a lot, because eventually when you're like, you know what, Sekuru, I don't think Izozo, you know, gonna quit. Don't you think this can be better? And then they'll be like, sure, Mzukuru, I think that really works. Let me try to do that. So I really feel the way you package your message has a great impact on how it's going to be embraced. Thank you, Ms. Charity.
Okay, thank you very much for that study. I saw Basil, you said I should raise my voice. Okay, so I raised a question on how best we can come up with safety champions from the resistant employees. Those ones that say, for example, I gave an example to say that I experienced that at some time when this older guy was telling me, you can't tell me how to do these things. I've been doing it for a long time. So that was the question, Basil. Revai, I see your hand is up. You can go ahead.
Okay, thank you so much, Charity. When it comes to issue of resistance, I totally agree with Dirai in terms of how you package a message and its acceptance by the recipient. I've also used this. I'm not so sure how many people have come across a short video. I think it's 10 minutes something seconds, 30 something seconds, which is entitled "I Chose to Look the Other Way." It's based on a poem. That video goes a long way in changing people's mindset, attitude, pointing to experience, among other things. So that video, if we could look for it, if not, I think, Charity, I can send you so that we can share with the attendees just after this, this meeting. It's really a good tool, and that one, it's conclusive. It touches various characters, and ultimately, someone loses his life because of arrogance, because of the experience he was alluding to in the earlier instances where he was doing unsafe acts, but getting away with it. But later on, the person died. So it's a touching video, which I normally use when it comes to changing organizational culture, safety leadership, and so forth. So if possible, I can share, then you guys, we can share with all the attendees after this so that they can even view it and probably use it at their workplaces. It goes a long way in terms of assisting or addressing the issue of arrogance, resistance, among other issues at the workplace. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Rivai. I think everyone, you can just share your email addresses in the chat so that we can be able to share the video once Mr. Rivai shares the video with everyone. Okay, is there anyone who still has any other contribution regarding to that?
Okay. What I think I would like to add on what Daddy and Reva was saying about how you approach your employees. It's best to promote positive reinforcement. Where, for instance, if you are training your employees on PPE, say you want to promote the use of safety goggles. Whenever you are conducting those trainings, it's best to deliver your trainings in such a way that the employees or the audience will then take it to themselves that we are wearing these safety goggles so that I want to protect myself, I want to protect my eyes so that whenever they are at the workplace, they know I have to take on safety goggles, not because that's what the safety department recommends, but it is for me. So I think that is the approach that we need to use so that whenever employees are championing safety, they take it upon themselves, not as a way of just following rules. Oh, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Teach. So yeah, that was a valid contribution. It all goes down to how you communicate. Like what was mentioned earlier on when we were discussing the policy. It's in how you communicate your policy. Are you having your policy displayed at advantageous points around the organization? The same applies with how you communicate safety issues. Do you have any pictographs around the organization that are a constant reminder for the employees? And also the induction that we mentioned earlier on. Are you really taking your time to train those people, to induct them so that they know why they are doing what they are doing? And also what Mr. Revai mentioned, how you interact with the person. You don't have to impose, per se. You have to really highlight the reasons for doing that. So I think this was quite an interesting session. Thank you everyone for attending. Would like to also thank our sponsors, Till One Center for Learning, NASA, and Zimbabwe Institute of Safety and Health, SIOSH. So our next session is going to be on the 7th of May. And yeah, Mr. Basil, you once asked if we are going to share a link. You can also go to our YouTube channel. We have a YouTube channel, it's Vanilla TV. And you can also follow us on all social media platforms, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and Instagram. Thank you everyone for attending. Enjoy your Independence holiday.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Tonde, for that one. Thanks, everyone. I guess everyone enjoyed. See you next time, guys. Hello?
Thank you. You have a good day.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay.